I want to talk a little bit about Mark Carney's trip to communist China. He and his cabinet ministers are on yet another junket. I swear he never stops. It's what he likes to do best in life: private jets, five-star hotels, hobnobbing with the global elites, lots of conferences, not really doing anything, but lots of meetings and photo ops. Has he actually done anything? Can you name one thing concrete that he's achieved in his nearly year as prime minister? And I can tell you one thing: he hates doing grubby things like having to answer questions in question period. He's got one of the lowest number of work days of any parliament in recent memory. He just doesn't really care about parliament. That's too democratic. He's busy going to conferences, though. On this trip alone, he's going to Communist China, the World Economic Forum, where he used to be a board member, and Qatar, the strongest supporter of terrorism in the world. If Iran falls, it'll really be the last refuge for all the scoundrels. I call it an anti-American tour, wouldn't you? China, World Economic Forum, Qatar. I mean, I think that's our new policy. We have a new foreign policy. I don't know if I don't know if you know that. It just is new and different. There was no election about this. Carney did not give any indication about this in the election. There was no vote in Parliament, not even a debate. Here's Anita Anand, the foreign minister, who sounds a little bit like Kamala Harris here. She sort of makes Melanie Joly look smart by comparison. She's just sort of announcing that we have a new foreign policy. Did you know that? Here, take a look.
This is a new government with a new prime minister, a new foreign policy, and a new geopolitical environment. In this moment of economic stress for our country, it is necessary for us to diversify our trading partners and to grow non-U.S. trade by at least 50% over the next 10 years.
How much pressure are you?
The work that we will continue to do is to diversify supply chains while continuing to stand up for Canadian interests at every turn.
New government, new foreign policy, and we're diversifying exports and supply chains. We're literally trying to replace our supply chain, as in the parts that we put together into manufacturing. Or we think China would be a better supplier than the United States. Is that a good idea? Her job is to stand up for Canadian interests, and she says she's going to do that there, but I really don't think she's standing up for Canadian interests. I don't think that China fits with Canada's interests, not economically, not democratically. They have massive industrial espionage activities here. They basically destroyed Nortel, our national champion, and took all the secrets and made Huawei. They steal things from our Ebola labs. They infiltrate our democracy. The Communist Party of China is in no way in Canada's interests. I think Anita Anand just is looking at the money and the anti-American opportunities. And I'm not the only one to think this, and you don't have to be a right-winger to think this. Here, take a look at a couple of journalists who were traveling with Mark Carney and Anita Anand, so you know they were regime journalists. Even they were saying, hey, how come we have to have burner phones? You know what I mean by that? Not your real laptop, not your real cell phone, just something you use for the few days you're in China, because it'll be totally hacked by Chinese spies, because that's what they do. Here, take a look at that question.
Can I just ask a general question about investing in China? There's a ton of experts we've spoken to in the business community in Canada who are gun shy about investing in China. Joint ventures aren't such. It's China win. It's not win-win. We're using burner phones for the first time when we covered this because China spies on journalists and businessmen. China intercepts communications. Is China really the right kind of partner for Canadian industry?
Listen, we've been clear-eyed. We're eyes wide open. We know this, but there's been investments by Canadian companies for years here. Tomorrow I'm meeting with Magna. Magna, one of the biggest car auto parts companies in the world. They have 30,000 people working here. We're meeting with Manulife. We're meeting with BMO. These companies have been in China for years. Now, obviously, we're having these conversations with the Chinese government. they're going to invest in our country, they need to make sure that our companies are able to invest and have access to stability and have access to a form of certainty. And so that's what we're working on. When we engage with China and we engage with businesses like Tim and I have been doing, we put everything on the table to address these risks. And that's why this visit is so important, and it's been a focus of the Prime Minister.
Yeah, so they went to Melanie Joly for that tough question. And did you hear there was what she said? But it was just sort of a classic line. Yeah, we know they're terrible. We're clear-eyed. Our eyes are open. But hey, did you know that we have Canadian firms trying to get rich in China? Okay, I know that's true. Of course, Jean Chrétien has been in China for more than 20 years trying to get rich, and I'm sure he has. But isn't this junket supposed to be about getting China to invest here in Canada, to make jobs and wealth here in Canada? How exactly does Anita Anand stand up for Canadians? Is it like this? Take a look at this tweet she said. I don't know if you heard, but a Canadian was murdered in Iran, a Canadian democracy activist murdered by the Iranian Ayatollahs. And this is what our foreign minister said. I have just learned that a Canadian citizen has died in Iran at the hands of the Iranian authorities. Has died? It's pretty passive language. You mean was killed? Was murdered even? No, has died. What was he? Did he die of old age? Our consular officials are in contact with the victim's family in Canada, and my deepest condolences are with them at this time. Peaceful protests by the Iranian people asking that their voices be heard in the face of the Iranian regime's repression and ongoing human rights violations has led the regime to flagrantly disregard human life. The violence must end. Canada condemns and calls for an immediate end to the Iranian regime's violence. Okay, are you going to threaten to arrest the Ayatollahs like you said you would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu? Are you going to declare sanctions on Iran? Or what are you going to do other than just put a little tweet? It was so gross. You can see the capitulation in real time. But I think the classic moment today was Mark Carney sitting in a meeting with communist officials and pledging allegiance to the new world order. That's literally the phrase he used. And you can see that Saskatchewan's Premier Scott Moe is seated right next to him. And Moe is thinking, oh my God, am I on camera as he's saying this? Take a look. I don't know if you know this, but Canada's new foreign policy, and it's called the New World Order. Take a look.
Mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade. The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Yeah, it wasn't always this way. I mean, there was a brief moment when Carney was running for office and it wasn't in the bag yet. And he said things, I'm going to call them lies, about China that I think he thought would win Canadians over, and then he could reveal his belief in the New World Order. Like here he is saying that the biggest security threat in the world to Canada is China. He said this. Take a look.
Well, we're in a security section. I think we didn't have a chance to talk about anything internationally. I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
China, you say?
Yeah, he doesn't say that anymore, or he's willing to accept it as a price for what? There's no Chinese investment. There's no Chinese money coming over here. China takes. It doesn't give. It's not a generous country. It's a communist dictatorship. Here's a couple of more Mark Carney cabinet ministers talking about selling energy and other things to China. Here, try and make sense of this. Take a listen.
And so that is why Tim and I, obviously with the Prime Minister, supporting the Prime Minister, have met many businesses today. May it be in natural resources, energy, may it be in clean tech, may it be also much more in manufacturing. And the goal was to see what type of investments could be made in Canada and how also can Canadian companies export to Canada, to China. Because it's important to remember ourselves, China is the third biggest investor in Canada with $50 billion invested in 2024, but also China is our second biggest client in the world. because it is our second biggest market where we export. I think a lot of people in the auto sector right now, I'm thinking obviously of auto workers, have been preoccupied when hearing what is happening south of the border and the different comments regarding the capacity of Canada to continue to export cars across North America. And so that's why my team and I have been working on a new auto strategy, because our goal is to make sure that we favor auto production in Canada. We need to make sure that we continue to have a very strong auto sector. There's 125,000 people working in the sector with direct jobs. Indirect, it becomes 400,000 people involved in the auto sector. And at the same time, we're trying to attract a lot of investments from Korea, from Germany, and also we're looking at different partners around the world. And so these are ongoing conversations, and that's why we'll have more to say tomorrow.
What we heard loud and clear is China is looking for reliable trading partners that don't use energy for coercion. China is already a major consumer of Canadian energy, like we heard when I was in the UK, like we heard when I was in Germany, like my colleagues have already heard in Japan and Korea. The world wants more of what Canada has. Canada has the lowest carbon intensity LNG in the world, and we are decarbonizing our barrels and more aggressively looking to decarbonize our barrels than any other country in the world. That's consistent with the values of many of our trading partners, including the Chinese. They want more of what we've got.
There's actually some points in there that have meaning. Tim Hodgson, that's the Natural Resources Minister under Carney, says that China wants to buy some oil where there's no political coercion. What does that mean? Well, he's talking, of course, about the United States, because the United States has sanctions on Iranian oil and Russian oil. And Trump just announced a couple of days ago that any country still buying energy from Iran will have a 25% tariff added to them. So who possibly could Tim Hodgson, Carney's Natural Resources Minister, be talking about? Talking about America. Because Trump, now that Trump is taking control of Venezuela's oil, between Venezuelan oil in the hands of America and Iran being tariffed, China is being surrounded. This is Trump's way of isolating China and Russia, frankly, by stripping these oil reserves. Tim Hodgson is going to China and say, hey, we will be your secret exit. We will be your way out of this problem of political coercion through oil. Let me say that again. Mark Carney's cabinet minister is saying to China, we, unlike the Americans, will let you buy our oil. We're not going to put tariffs on things. You can get it from us instead of America. Boy, good luck with that. Then it goes on and gets a little weird where Hodgson talks about reduced carbon being some selling point. Have you ever heard any country in the world, let alone a totalitarian regime like China, say, we'll only buy your oil if it has lower carbon? No one else in the world is crazy like that. No one talks about that made up stuff. Certainly not China, which is the world's largest emitter of carbon dioxide, if you care about that sort of thing. And most people don't. Certainly not China. The idea that China really cares and agrees with this self-delusion is quite something. But look, what's the reason they went to China? I think the main reason they went to China was to tweak Donald Trump's nose. I think they went to China to give the perception that they're going to replace America as Canada's economic engine. So I think it's about two shows. One, to propagandize to Canadian people that they can find a substitute to America. And the other is to target Trump and irritate him to keep the back and forth battle of words going so anti-Americanism continues to grow so Carney can be reelected. I think that's what's going on here.